The massive crystalline chamber stretched impossibly high above Ambassador David Kane's head, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent veins that cast eerie blue-green shadows across hundreds of alien representatives. The sight would have taken his breath away under different circumstances, but today the beauty felt more like a death sentence. Kane stood perfectly still on the small metal platform at the chamber's center, flanked by his two companions. Dr. Rachel Torres maintained her clinical composure, despite the weight of dozens of alien eyes studying them like specimens. Colonel James Park kept his military bearing, though Kane noticed the slight tension in his jaw that spoke of barely controlled readiness for action. Above them, arranged in ascending tiers that seemed to reach toward infinity, sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The hegemony's High Counselor Vorthak dominated the highest throne, his massive form bristling with natural armor plates that had evolved over millions of years. His four eyes, each the size of Kane's fist, focused on the humans with predatory intensity. To Vorthak's left sat the ethereal collective's representative, a shimmering cloud of sentient gas contained within a force field that constantly shifted between purple and gold. The being's voice, when it spoke, resonated directly in the minds of everyone present through advanced telepathic technology. The insectoid hives had sent Queen Kazara, whose crystalline exoskeleton reflected the chamber's bioluminescent glow in dazzling patterns. Her compound eyes tracked the humans, every movement while her forearms remained perfectly still. A sign Kane knew, indicated either deep contemplation or preparation for violence. Representatives from dozens of other species filled the remaining seats. Aquatic beings in environmental suits, energy-based life forms contained in specialized chambers, and creatures so alien that Kane's mind struggled to process their basic anatomy. Each represented civilizations spanning thousands of worlds, commanding technologies that could reshape planets or extinguish stars, and they were all here to judge humanity. The charges are clear. High Counselor Vorthak's voice boomed through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems, causing several smaller alien representatives to visibly flinch. The human species stands accused of 17 violations of interstellar law, unauthorized expansion into restricted galactic sectors, and the development of prohibited technologies that threaten the stability of our civilized galaxy. Kane felt the weight of those words settle over him like a physical presence. Behind each formal charge lay the real accusation. Humanity was growing too fast, becoming too powerful, threatening the careful balance that had kept galactic peace for over 10,000 years. Furthermore, continued Queen Kazara, her voice creating harmonic frequencies that translated into multiple languages simultaneously, your species has demonstrated a concerning disregard for established protocols. In merely 3 centuries since achieving faster-than-light travel, you have established colonies on 47 worlds and constructed industrial complexes that rival those of civilizations 10 times your age. Dr. Torres stepped forward slightly, her movement precise and controlled. Honored representatives, we appreciate this opportunity to address the Council's concerns. However, we believe there may be some misunderstandings about humanity's activities and intentions. A wave of harmonic vibrations filled the chamber. Oh, the alien equivalent of derisive laughter. The ethereal representative's thoughts projected directly into the translation matrix. Misunderstandings? Your expansion rate exceeds that of known aggressive species by a factor of 12. Your industrial output suggests military preparation on a scale unprecedented in recorded galactic history. Colonel Park took a measured step forward, and something in that simple movement caused absolute silence to fall over the chamber. When he spoke, his voice carried a quiet authority that transcended species barriers. With respect, Counselor, our expansion has been entirely within unclaimed space according to all published galactic maps and legal frameworks. Our industrial development follows standard patterns for a rapidly developing civilization. We have initiated no hostile actions against any established species or territory. High Counselor Vorthak's mandibles clicked together in a gesture Kane recognized as skepticism. Your protests of innocence ring hollow, Colonel. Our intelligence networks have detected energy signatures from your worlds that suggest weapons development far beyond what any species should possess at your level of development. Kane suppressed a smile at that. If only they knew how wrong they were about humanity's actual capabilities. High Counselor, if I may address the Council directly. Vorthak gestured with one massive claw. Speak, human. though know that your words will determine whether your species faces simple containment or complete sterilization. The threat hung in the air like a sword, but Kane had expected this moment for months. Everything humanity had worked toward for the past 3 centuries had led to this chamber. This moment, this careful revelation. Honored representatives, Kane began, his voice carrying clearly through the vast space without amplification. A detail that caused several alien representatives to shift uncomfortably in their seats. You speak of humanity's rapid expansion and industrial development as evidence of aggressive intent. But what if I told you that everything you've observed about our species has been carefully calculated to bring us to this exact moment? The chamber erupted in confused chatter and harmonic vibrations. Dr. Torres activated a small device on her wrist, and suddenly the chamber's display systems came alive with star charts that made every alien representative gasp in recognition. These are detailed scans of your homeworlds, Kane continued conversationally, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. Population centers, defensive installations, industrial complexes, fleet positions. Some of this data was collected within the last solar cycle. The silence that followed was absolute. High Counselor Vorthak's 4 eyes narrowed to slits. This is impossible. Our sensor networks span the entire galaxy. No unknown technology could penetrate our defenses without detection. Could it? Dr. Torres asked, her finger hovering over another control. Perhaps the real question is whether you truly understand what you've been defending against. She activated the display, and the chamber's walls suddenly showed a new image. Massive structures in deep space, clearly artificial, bristling with technology that made even the Galactic Council's most advanced installations look primitive by comparison. 300 years ago, Kane said quietly, humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. What your records don't show is that we've been traveling between galaxies for over 7,000 years. The implications hit the assembled representatives like a physical blow. If humans possessed intergalactic travel capabilities, if they had been observing galactic civilization for millennia without detection, then everything the Council thought they knew about the balance of power was not just wrong. It was laughably naive. Colonel Park stepped to the edge of the platform, and the energy field around him began to pulse with barely contained power. You called this session to judge humanity's fitness to exist in your galaxy. But the question you should be asking is whether you're prepared to learn what happens when you threaten a species that has been protecting this galaxy from threats you can't even imagine. As alarms began sounding throughout the Council, complex and energy readings spiked beyond the sensor's ability to measure. Kane allowed himself a genuine smile. The trial is over, counselors. Now the real education begins. The energy emanating from the platform where the 3 humans stood intensified, causing the ancient crystalline walls of the Galactic Council chamber to resonate with harmonics that made alien auditory organs ache. Emergency protocols activated throughout the massive complex as defensive systems struggled to analyze threats they had never been designed to identify. High Counselor Vorthak fought to maintain his composure as bio-readings showed his stress indicators spiking into dangerous territory. The armor plates along his spine flared outward in an involuntary threat display. Stand down immediately. You are in violation of Article 7 of the Sanctuary Protocols, RAR. No weapons or hostile technology in the Council chambers. Doctor, Torres looked up from her handheld device with an expression of mild surprise. Article 7. We helped draft those protocols, Counselor. We're quite familiar with their limitations and exceptions. The chamber erupted into chaos as representatives demanded explanations in dozens of different languages, while security forces scrambled to respond to energy signatures that defied their understanding of known physics. Through it all, the 3 humans remained perfectly calm at the eye of the storm. Colonel Park raised his hand, and the cacophony ceased instantly. The gesture itself wasn't threatening, but something in the way he moved suggested depths of training and capability that transcended normal military bearing. When he spoke, his voice carried authority that bypassed conscious thought and spoke directly to the survival instincts of every species present. 7,000 years ago, your ancestors developed faster-than-light travel. Within 1,000 years, you had formed this council to prevent the wars that nearly destroyed your civilizations. What you never realized was that every step of that development was being observed, catalogued, and protected by guardians you never suspected existed. The main display shifted to show ancient star charts overlaid with modern astronomical data. Dotted lines traced subtle patterns across millennia, revealing movements and influences that had shaped galactic development in ways no one had ever imagined. The ethereal representative's gaseous form shifted rapidly between colors, a sign of extreme agitation. Its telepathic voice projected urgency and disbelief. The ghost signals our ancestors detected but could never explain. The sensor anomalies that appeared at crucial moments in our history. You claim responsibility for phenomena we classified as natural cosmic events? Ambassador Kane nodded approvingly. Your species developed many names for us over the millennia. Phantom signals, quantum echoes, dimensional shadows. We were always there, watching from just outside your ability to detect us, learning everything about your capabilities, your weaknesses, your potential. Potential for what? Demanded Queen Kazara, her crystalline exoskeleton flashing with rapid color changes that indicated fear mixed with anger. For survival, Dr. Torres replied simply. She gestured, and the chamber's displays filled with technical schematics that showed technologies decades beyond anything the Council possessed, ships that folded space-time around themselves, weapons that could destabilize the quantum foam underlying reality, defensive systems that turned entire star systems into impregnable fortresses. The aquatic delegation's representative speaking, through a translation device that converted pressure waves into galactic standard, asked the question that hung unspoken in every mind. How many of you are there? Colonel Park appeared to consider the question carefully. In this galaxy, currently about 15 billion, but we're not native to this region of space. We came here from elsewhere. This galaxy was supposed to be our quiet sanctuary while we prepared for what's coming. The weight of that statement settled over the chamber like a physical presence. If humanity possessed the technology to travel between galaxies, if they had been secretly managing galactic civilization for thousands of years, then the Council's entire understanding of their place in the universe was not just incomplete. It was fundamentally wrong. The expansion rate that triggered your concern, Kane continued, his tone conversational despite the earth-shaking revelations. The industrial development that seemed so aggressive, the technological signatures that worried your intelligence, services, all of it was carefully calculated to reach a specific threshold of capability at a specific moment in time. High Counselor Vorthak's voice was barely a whisper. What moment? Dr. Torres activated another display, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images from deep space observation posts that shouldn't have existed. Long-range sensors detecting massive gravitational anomalies in the void between galaxies, movement patterns of objects so large they distorted space-time itself across light-years of distance. The moment when you would be strong enough to survive what's coming, but not so advanced that you would attract its attention prematurely, she replied. We've been preparing this galaxy for a war that most of your species can't even imagine. The displays shifted again, showing the true scope of human presence in the galaxy. Not just the 47 openly colonized worlds, but thousands of hidden installations. Orbital platforms disguised as asteroids, defense stations built into the hearts of stars, monitoring networks that extended beyond the galactic rim into the intergalactic void. For 7,000 years, Colonel Park continued, we've been protecting this galaxy from threats that your most advanced civilizations lack the conceptual framework to understand. We've redirected asteroid impacts, prevented stellar instabilities, and eliminated predatory species before they could achieve spaceflight capability. Queen Kazara's compound eyes reflected the chamber's displays in dizzying kaleidoscopic patterns. You've been managing our entire civilization without our knowledge or consent. We've been ensuring your civilization had the chance to develop naturally while being ready for what lies ahead, Kane corrected. Every species in this chamber exists because we made choices to preserve rather than exploit. Every technological advancement your civilizations achieved was protected from interference by forces that would have seen you as nothing more than interesting specimens to study or resources to consume. The ethereal representative pulsed with rapid color changes. What forces? What could possibly require such extensive preparation? Ambassador Kane's expression hardened. Something that consumed our original galaxy despite 10,000 years of resistance. Something that turns organized matter back into quantum foam and feeds on the collapse of complex systems. Something that has been traveling through the intergalactic void for the past 43 years, following our trail toward this sanctuary we thought we had found. A countdown appeared on every display in the chamber, its numbers steadily decreasing. Years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds. The precision was terrifying in its implications. 43 years until first contact, Dr. Torres announced. Less if they detect increased activity and decide to accelerate their approach. That's how long this galaxy has to transform from a collection of separate, competitive civilizations into a unified defense capable of fighting entropy itself. The chamber fell silent except for the quantum whisper of exotic energies and the barely audible hum of technologies that operated beyond normal spacetime. Every representative grappled with the same impossible realization. Everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe had just become irrelevant. High Counselor Vorthak was the first to find his voice. Why reveal this now? Why not continue your hidden protection? Colonel Park's smile was grim. Because hidden protection won't be enough for what's coming. Because the enemy we're preparing to face doesn't just destroy civilizations, it unmakes the very concept of civilization. And because the only way to survive what's approaching is for every species, every world, every individual in this galaxy to understand exactly what we're fighting for. The energy field around the platform pulsed brighter, and when it cleared, the three humans were no longer alone. Dozens of figures in advanced armor had appeared behind them, their faces hidden behind visors that reflected the chamber's crystalline walls. The question now, Kane said quietly, isn't whether humanity will submit to your judgment. The question is whether you're ready to discover what this galaxy must become to survive. The armored figures behind the human delegation stood with perfect stillness, their advanced suits interfacing seamlessly with the Galactic Council's ancient systems. What had begun as a judgment session had transformed into something far more ominous, a revelation that threatened to reshape every assumption about galactic civilization. Admiral Lisa Cross stepped forward from the group of newcomers, her armor's holographic displays casting tactical information into the air around her. The data streams showed star maps, energy readings, and movement patterns that made several alien representatives lean forward despite their fear. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Admiral Cross announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to commanding fleets across interstellar distances. I am Admiral Cross, commanding officer of the Deep Space Defense Initiative. What you're about to witness has been classified beyond your highest security levels for over 7 millennia. The chamber's main display expanded to show a view of intergalactic space that defied comprehension. At first, the vast darkness between spiral galaxies appeared empty. The cold void that astronomers had always assumed contained nothing but scattered hydrogen and the occasional rogue star. Then the sensors adjusted their frequency range, penetrating deeper into the electromagnetic spectrum and beyond. What they revealed violated every principle of physics the assembled representatives thought they understood. Massive structures moved through the cosmic dark, their scale so enormous that describing them challenged the limits of language. They resembled nothing from any known biological or technological tradition, twisted geometries that seemed to fold space around themselves, creating distortions in reality that made nearby matter simply cease to exist. The consuming swarm, Admiral Cross stated with clinical precision, 47 primary entities, each roughly the size of a planetary system. They move by unmaking the fabric of spacetime itself, leaving expanding zones of absolute nothingness in their wake. The ethereal representative's gaseous form contracted with horror. I sensed nothing from them. No consciousness, no thought patterns, no life force of any kind. They register as complete voids in reality. Because that's exactly what they are, Dr. Torres confirmed, her scientific training allowing her to maintain composure while describing cosmic horrors. They're not alive in any biological sense. They're self-replicating entropy engines, designed by a civilization that chose universal annihilation over defeat. The tactical displays showed the swarm's projected path through spacetime. Their route would bring them directly through this galaxy's outer rim, following a spiral pattern that would systematically consume every star system, every planet, every trace of organized matter until nothing remained but cold quantum foam. The civilization that created them, Ambassador Kane continued, faced an enemy they couldn't defeat through conventional warfare. Rather than surrender, they developed the ultimate weapon as entities that would consume not just their enemies, but the very possibility of complex organization throughout the universe. Queen Kazara's compound eyes reflected the display screens in thousands of fragmented images. How do you fight something that exists to unmake existence itself? With great difficulty, Admiral Cross replied grimly. Our original galaxy threw everything we had at them. Stellar engineering projects that turned entire systems into weapons, fleets numbering in the trillions, technologies that manipulated the fundamental forces of nature. None of it was enough. The display shifted to show archival footage from humanity's original homeworld RO massive evacuation fleets launching from orbital stations, while behind them, sections of the galaxy simply vanished. Not destroyed in explosions or consumed by fire, but erased as if they had never existed at all. How many escaped? Asked the representative from the crystalline hegemony, its mineral-based consciousness processing the implications with mathematical precision. Out of approximately 20 trillion humans across 8,000 worlds, Ambassador Kane's voice carried the weight of unimaginable loss. Roughly 60 billion made it to the evacuation fleets. We've been seeding defensive positions across multiple galaxies ever since, searching for a place where we might finally make a stand. High Counselor Vorthak's armor plates shifted as his massive form leaned forward. And you chose our galaxy as your battlefield? We chose your galaxy as a sanctuary worth defending, Colonel Park corrected. The Galactic Council represents the largest stable alliance this region of space has ever produced. Your combined civilizations have achieved a level of cooperation and technological integration that makes unified defense theoretically possible. The chambers displays now showed the true scope of human defensive preparations. Hidden battle stations emerged from stealth fields around stars throughout the galaxy. Massive construction projects revealed themselves in the void between systems. Generation ships the size of moons decloaked along strategic positions near the galactic rim. For 7,000 years, Dr. Torres explained, we've been building defenses while carefully managing your civilization's development. Every restriction on expansion, every limitation on certain technologies, every diplomatic intervention that prevented major wars, it was all designed to keep this galaxy stable and unified while we prepared for what's coming. The aquatic delegation's representative expelled a stream of pressure bubbles that translated as profound distress. You've been manipulating our entire history without our knowledge or consent. We've been ensuring your history continued to exist, Admiral Cross replied bluntly. The consuming swarm follows patterns of organized energy across intergalactic distances. Rapid expansion creates quantum ripples that act like beacon signals. Too much technological development too quickly generates the kind of organized complexity they seek to consume. The implications were staggering.
Humanity hadn't just been observing galactic civilization.
They had been carefully orchestrating its development to minimize the risk of premature detection, while maximizing defensive potential. The 47 worlds we openly colonized, Kane continued, represented the visible portion of our presence. What you couldn't detect were the defense installations we built in over 3,000 star systems, the sensor networks, the communication relays, the emergency manufacturing facilities capable of producing defensive technologies on a galactic scale. The display showed energy distribution patterns across the galaxy, revealing how human technology had been quietly augmenting power generation and defensive capabilities for millennia. Stars burned slightly brighter than natural fusion should allow. Planetary magnetic fields showed enhancement beyond normal stellar-wind interactions. Gravity wells demonstrated subtle modifications that would redirect potential invasion routes. The secret resolution your council passed authorizing humanity's immediate subjugation, Admiral Cross stated, her tone carrying the weight of absolute authority, wasn't just an act of aggression. It was potentially a death sentence for every living being in this galaxy, because our defensive preparations are integrated with your civilization's infrastructure. Disrupting our operations now would leave you defenseless when the swarm arrives. The countdown timer continued its relentless progression, each second bringing the galaxy closer to an encounter with entropy itself. 42 years, 11 months, 23 days. The precision was both reassuring and terrifying. Humanity knew exactly when the end would come. "What do you require from us?" High Counselor Vorthak asked quietly, his voice barely audible above the quantum hum of exotic technologies. The platform's energy field pulsed, and when it cleared, even more human figures had appeared. Scientists, engineers, military specialists, and diplomatic corps representatives filled the space behind the original three. Each wore armor or clothing that incorporated technologies the Council's greatest minds couldn't begin to understand. "Everything," Ambassador Kane replied simply, "because the real War Council hasn't begun yet. What you've seen today is just the briefing. The planning phase starts now, and it will require every resource, every innovation, and every citizen of every civilization in this galaxy, working toward a single objective." He gestured toward the countdown display. "In less than 43 years, this galaxy will face an enemy that has consumed dozens of others. The question isn't whether we can defeat the Maroirs, the question is whether we can become something they've never encountered before. A truly unified galactic civilization that fights as one organism against the forces of entropy itself." The weight of cosmic responsibility settled over the chamber like a physical presence. For the first time in galactic history, every species faced the same enemy, the same timeline, the same absolute stakes for survival. 3 years had passed since the revelation in the Galactic Council chambers, and the galaxy bore little resemblance to its former self. From the observation deck of Nexus Stationum, humanity's newly revealed command facility orbiting the galactic core, Admiral Cross watched as impossible cooperation became daily routine across thousands of star systems. The massive space station stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, its crystalline spires and metallic corridors serving as the nexus for the largest construction project in cosmic history. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, she could see representative fleets from every major civilization working side by side on defensive installations that defied previous understanding of engineering possibilities. "Colonel," Park approached with a data tablet that flickered with real-time reports from across the galaxy. "Construction status update, Admiral. The rim fortifications are 85% complete. The Catherian quantum engineers have successfully integrated their dimensional manipulation technology with our space-time anchors. Through the observation deck's enhanced visual systems, they could watch one of the most ambitious projects ever attempted. Teams of Catherian technicians, their insectoid forms encased in specialized environmental suits, worked alongside human engineers to install defensive barriers that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. The technology would prevent the consuming swarm from simply phasing through solid matter during their assault. The crystalline hegemony's harmonic resonators are exceeding all performance expectations, Park continued. Their ability to create interference patterns in quantum foam has given us defensive capabilities we never imagined possible. Combined with the ethereal collective's telepathic coordination networks, we're achieving response times that operate faster than light itself." Admiral Cross nodded approvingly as she watched a demonstration of the new defensive systems. Crystalline beings the size of small buildings worked with ethereal entities to create vast harmonic fields that could disrupt the fundamental forces holding the swarm's entropy engines together. The sight of such radically different species cooperating so seamlessly would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier. Dr. Torres materialized beside them, her once pristine laboratory attire now bearing the marks of constant fieldwork across multiple star systems. "Admiral, we've achieved the breakthrough we've been hoping for." She held up a device that seemed to bend light around itself, creating visual distortions that hurt to look at directly. "The entropy inhibitor prototype?" Admiral Cross asked, accepting the device carefully. It was no larger than her palm, yet the technical readouts suggested it contained more concentrated energy than most planetary power grids. "Successful testing on progressively larger scales," Torres confirmed, her excitement barely contained despite the gravity of their situation. "We managed to stop a swarm scout probe from consuming an entire asteroid belt. The device creates a localized bubble of reinforced space-time that the probe couldn't penetrate or unmake. The implications were staggering. If they could scale up the entropy inhibitors to planetary or system-wide installations, they might actually have defensive capabilities that could resist the swarm's reality unmaking abilities." "Production requirements?" Park inquired, already calculating resource allocation across their manufacturing networks. "Massive," Torres admitted. Each planetary scale inhibitor requires resources equivalent to building 3 heavy cruisers, plus exotic matter that has to be manufactured in zero-gravity environments using ethereal collective consciousness manipulation techniques. But the Aquatic Confederation has volunteered their deep space mining operations, and the avian fleets have committed their orbital fabrication platforms. The station's communication systems activated, and High Counselor Vorthak's image appeared on the main display. The formerly proud leader had transformed over the past 3 years from a suspicious politician into a dedicated military coordinator, his natural armor bearing scars from construction accidents and his eyes carrying the weight of galactic responsibility. Admiral Cross, we're receiving priority alerts from our deep space monitoring stations. The consuming swarm has begun active acceleration. Admiral Cross felt her stomach tighten with familiar dread. Current timeline? 18 months until they reach the galactic rim, possibly less if they continue to increase velocity. The timeline had just contracted by over 20 years. Every construction project, every technological development, every diplomatic integration that had been proceeding methodically would now have to operate in full crisis mode. Entire civilizations would need to mobilize for total war in a fraction of the originally planned time. Emergency session in 2 hours. Admiral Cross decided immediately. All species representatives, all construction coordinators, all military commands. If we're going to complete our defensive preparations, we need to accelerate everything simultaneously. As Vorthak's image faded, the observation deck fell silent except for the quantum hum of exotic technologies operating beyond normal space-time. Through the viewports, they could see the lights of thousands of construction projects and artificial stars being born, planets being moved into defensive positions, technologies being created that challenged the fundamental laws of physics. You know what's remarkable? Dr. Torres mused, watching a joint Mindari human crew installing quantum communication relays around a neutron star. 6 months ago, most of these species had never shared advanced technology with anyone outside their own worlds. Now they're literally rebuilding the galaxy together. Park nodded thoughtfully. The swarm might have inadvertently accomplished something that diplomacy alone never could. True galactic unity born from absolute necessity. Don't celebrate yet, Admiral Cross warned, though she couldn't keep the note of pride from her voice. We still have to prove this alliance can fight as effectively as it can build. The communication system activated again, this time with an all-channel broadcast that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. A miracle of Mindari telepathic networks, crystalline harmonic amplification, and human quantum communication technology working in perfect synchronization. Citizens of the galaxy. Admiral Cross's voice carried to billions of beings across thousands of star systems. 18 months from now, we will face the ultimate test of everything we've built together. The consuming swarm approaches ahead of schedule, but so does our readiness to defend our home. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteer rates for military service spiked across all species. Resource contributions increased exponentially. For the first time in galactic history, every inhabited world was working toward the same desperate goal. The swarm consumes organized energy, Admiral Cross continued. They feed on complexity, consciousness, and the structured matter that makes life possible. But they've never encountered anything like what we've become, a truly unified galactic civilization that thinks, plans, and fights as a single organism. On countless worlds, in countless languages, the same commitment was being made. They would stand together. They would fight together. And if necessary, they would face extinction together rather than surrender the galaxy to entropy. 18 months to prove that cooperation is stronger than entropy, Admiral Cross announced. 18 months to demonstrate that consciousness united can defeat unconscious destruction. 18 months to rewrite the rules of cosmic survival. As emergency construction protocols activated across the galaxy and billions of beings mobilized for the ultimate defense of organized matter itself, one truth became clear. Whatever emerged from the coming battle would be fundamentally different from anything that had existed before. The consuming swarm expected to face another collection of scattered, competitive civilizations. Instead, they would encounter something unprecedented in cosmic history. A galaxy that had chosen unity over individual survival and cooperation over competition. The countdown continued, But now it marked something more than just invasion. It counted down to the moment when the galaxy would discover what it had truly become, in its desperate preparation for survival. The first consuming swarm entities materialized at the galactic rim exactly 18 months after Admiral Cross's final broadcast, their impossible geometries tearing holes in the fabric of reality itself. From the command center of Nexus Station, now serving as the Unified Galactic Defense Headquarters, the assembled representatives of every major civilization watched as their worst fears took physical form. The enemy defied description in any conventional sense. Each entity stretched across light years of space, their twisted framework seeming to exist partially outside normal dimensions. Where they moved, space itself developed tears that bled absolute nothingness into the surrounding cosmos. Stars simply ceased to exist in their presence, not exploding or collapsing but vanishing as if they had never been. First contact confirmed, reported Captain Nina Bell, her voice steady despite the enormity of what they faced. 47 primary entities detected along the rim, with smaller scout constructs numbering in the thousands. They're moving in a coordinated spiral pattern designed to systematically consume every system they encounter. High Counselor Vorthak stood at the tactical display, his once proud form now bearing the practical modifications of 3 years spent in joint military operations. Cybernetic implants allowed him to interface directly with the unified command networks, while his natural armor had been enhanced with human defensive technologies. Defensive grid status? All RIM installations reporting ready, confirmed Dr. Torres, her scientific instruments now tracking phenomena that existed beyond the edge of known physics. Entropy inhibitors are active across 3,000 star systems. Quantum resonance fields are synchronized with crystalline hegemony harmonic generators. Mindari telepathic networks are maintaining faster-than-light coordination between all defensive positions. The sight through the command center's observation windows was unlike anything in recorded galactic history. Where once individual species had maintained separate fleets and defensive positions, now a truly integrated force awaited the approaching darkness. Human vessels flew in formation with Catherian bioships. Ethereal energy beings provided power distribution for Aquatic Confederation heavy weapons platforms. The diversity was staggering, yet every element moved with unified purpose. Enemy behavior analysis, Admiral Cross requested, her attention focused on tracking displays that showed the swarm's approach vectors. Colonel Park consulted readouts from sensors that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They're following predicted patterns but with modifications we didn't anticipate. The swarm appears to be learning from our defensive preparations, adapting their approach to counter technologies they've never encountered before. The tactical display zoomed in on the nearest swarm entity, revealing details that challenged comprehension. The creature's framework constantly shifted between configurations, its reality warping abilities allowing it to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Wherever it moved, the background radiation of space itself decreased as if the universe was being systematically drained of energy. Beginning engagement sequence, Admiral Cross announced. Her words were transmitted simultaneously across the galaxy through communication networks that operated faster than causality itself, coordinating defensive actions across distances that should have made unified command impossible. The first weapons fired were unlike anything used in previous galactic conflicts. Crystalline hegemony harmonic cannons created interference patterns in quantum foam, while human stellar manipulators redirected the output of entire stars toward the approaching entities. Ethereal collective consciousness weapons attacked the conceptual framework that allowed the swarm to exist, while Catherian dimensional disruptors attempted to force the entities back into normal spacetime. For a moment, the combined assault seemed effective. Several smaller swarm constructs wavered, their reality distortion fields fluctuating under the unprecedented assault. Then the entities adapted, their configurations shifting to accommodate attacks they absorbed and incorporated into their own capabilities. Primary weapons ineffective against major entities, reported Queen Kazara, her compound eyes processing battle data from thousands of sources simultaneously. However, entropy inhibitors are successfully protecting defended systems. The swarm cannot directly consume installations within our defensive bubbles. Dr. Torres monitored readings from the entropy inhibitor network, watching as humanity's greatest technological achievement proved its worth against cosmic-scale destruction. Inhibitor fields are holding. The swarm can't unmake protected space, but they're beginning to probe for weaknesses in our coverage. The battle that followed redefined warfare on a galactic scale. Rather than traditional ship-to-ship combat, the conflict became a struggle between order and entropy, consciousness and void. The organized complexity of civilization against forces designed to reduce everything to quantum foam. Swarm entities are avoiding direct confrontation with our major defensive positions, Colonel Park observed, studying movement patterns that spanned multiple star systems. They're attempting to consume unprotected space around our installations, creating expanding zones of nothingness to isolate our defenses. Admiral Cross realized the true nature of their enemy's strategy. The swarm didn't need to destroy their defenses directly. They could simply unmake the space around defended positions, leaving islands of protected reality surrounded by absolute void. Implement Protocol Omega, she commanded. All mobile forces begin dynamic defensive positioning. We can't let them isolate our installations. What followed was the most complex military operation in galactic history. Fleets representing dozens of species moved through space that was being systematically erased, using technologies that existed partially outside normal reality to maintain coherent defensive formations. The coordination required was staggering. Billions of individual decisions made in perfect synchronization across impossible distances. The Aquatic Confederation's deep space mining platforms, repurposed as mobile entropy inhibitor generators, moved between threatened positions to extend protective fields. Avian fleet atmospheric processors modified to function in vacuum created localized zones of reinforced spacetime that could resist swarm reality manipulation. Human generation ships served as mobile command centers, their quantum communication systems maintaining coordination, despite operating in regions where causality itself was breaking down. The entities are learning from our defensive techniques, Dr. Torres reported with growing concern. Each adaptation they make becomes part of their core programming. They're becoming more effective against our specific technologies with every engagement. But something unexpected was happening. As the swarm adapted to counter individual species technologies, they found themselves facing combinations they couldn't predict. Human quantum manipulation enhanced by ethereal consciousness fields, crystalline harmonic weapons powered by Catherian bioenergy systems, defensive strategies that emerged from the unified thinking of dozens of different cognitive frameworks. The swarm's adaptation algorithms are showing stress patterns, observed the Mindari representative, her telepathic abilities allowing her to perceive the entity's decision-making processes. They were designed to counter individual civilizations, not truly integrated multi-species cooperation. High Counselor Vorthak's tactical displays showed the battle's ebb and flow across the galactic rim. They're beginning to make errors. Adaptation patterns that work against one defensive system are creating vulnerabilities to others. Admiral Cross watched as their unified civilization proved stronger than the sum of its parts. Where individual species might have fallen to the swarm's adaptive capabilities, the combined defense created a complexity that exceeded the entity's ability to process and counter. All positions. Concentrate fire on entity designation Alpha 7, she commanded. Full spectrum assault using rotating technological combinations. The designated swarm entity found itself facing an attack that changed its fundamental nature faster than its adaptation systems could respond. Harmonic disruption shifted to quantum manipulation, shifted to consciousness-based assault, shifted to dimensional displacement in patterns that defied prediction. For the first time since their creation, one of the major swarm entities began to destabilize. Its reality-warping framework flickered, its ability to unmake space faltered, and finally, impossibly, it simply ceased to function. The silence across the communication networks was absolute. Then, from every defended position simultaneously, a cheer arose that transcended species barriers and echoed across the galaxy. They had proven something that no civilization had ever demonstrated before. Unified consciousness could defeat entropy itself.